was the focus section, and that takes about half of my planner. And now moving on to the home management section, and that's really the one that's the most useful to me, aside from, of course, the week on 2 pages. So what I did for that section, same thing, I have one of those top loaders sheet from Martha Stewart collection. I put a Project Life tag with some washi tape, and then use my label maker to just say home management on it. I have one of those little keep calm and carry on card that's blank, but that's okay. Maybe one day I'll put a little picture or something. And then here I still have some of the Martha Stewart dividers, but they are from a different collection. And I have my routines. I have Black Ops, which I will explain in a minute. I have money, health, and password. And then on the top I have more sections. So now let me go through the routines. I do have the intention to start doing some meal planning, and as you can see right now, it's just an intention, because even though I marked it on the top, I have done nothing with regards to meal planning. So that section is completely blank, but eventually I'll start working on it. I mean, this is a goal that I have for 2014, so it's good to have here, because it's a reminder this is something that's part of my goals, and then I want to work on it. And then in the cleaning section, I have my old cleaning routine that used to be in my Filofax Personal. If you remember that video, this thing is beat up, like, it's all wrecked. I punched it, it's got some water on it, it's really, really damaged. But I like to have it as a general overview of what it is that I was doing. So if I give you a close-up, even though it's a sorry looking routine right now, and again, I'm sorry for the sun. As you can see, I was dividing my cleaning by day and then by floor, kind of like a zone thing. And I'm kind of actually keeping the same routine, whereby I kind of do specific rooms of the house on specific days. Like, for instance, I know that I'm definitely doing a complete living room and dining room clean on Monday, and then I would do the 3rd floor on Wednesday, things like this, so that I can break down the cleaning that I have to do in the house, rather than just like spending my entire weekend cleaning on Saturday and Sunday. And then what I did here is just kind of list every single room that I have in the house, and when I'm cleaning, it's just giving me a list of the things that I need to do. Now, I know that some of you find it to be a little redundant, and why you're listing this, you should know what you're cleaning, but guess what? Sometimes I just forget that I need to do specific things. Like, for instance, when I'm cleaning the living room, I may not necessarily remember, especially in the winter month, that part of the living room cleaning is to get rid of all the ashes in the fireplace. So I need it, it works for me. It's just a regular, list of things that I need to do when I'm doing specific room. And this is my Black Ops section. It's an inside joke. I'm not going to go over it as to why I call it Black Ops, but basically, if you look here, I have little tabs. And these are just stickers that I found at, I think they are part of the recollection. And what I did is that the pack came in with 2 stickers. So I put 1 sticker on the back and 1 on the front. And I used them to kind of like kiss the page. So I'm using them as tabs. And then I used my label maker with a smaller font to just write down the room. And my Black Ops section is really every single room of the house and what I plan on doing with them. So it's kind of like a project management binder more than anything else. So I have the kitchen with a list of things that I want to do in the kitchen and this an extra page. I have the living room, and you can see that I scratched off some of those already, because I'm kind of working one room at a time with no specific order. I have the dining room here, and again, I've been scratching things off. Every time that I think of doing something, hey, you know what, I should do this, or I should do that, I should replace this, I should get this instead, I kind of write it down here so that I don't forget about it. So, like I said, every single room of the house is listed, and then I put on top the label again, so the sticker here would say boy room, and then I have the kids room on top. Here's the second bathroom, and I'm not going to go all over them, but here's the office. So again, every room is listed. Look at this one. That's the one that has the most work, and it's my basement. I just continue to work on my basement. It's been a year now, but you know, I have my list of things that I want to do, and it's a mix of building, it's a mix of decluttering, it's a mix of decorating, colors, you know, like for instance, if I see something at Home Goods that I really like, I may write down, hey, get this the next time around for that particular room. So that's that. And then the most important section for me is my money section right here, and that's financial planning. So what I've been doing this year is start on the Dave Ramsey's baby steps, and you can check it out at daveramsey.com. I've actually created this. This is not something that you can find online. I just used the Word document, or maybe it was Publisher, I'm not sure. Put some logos, and it tells you every single one of the baby steps. So for instance, I know the first one is $1,000 for emergency fund. Then it's the pay off the debt, and then you put money aside for 6 months worth of spending, and it just goes on and on and on like this until you have your entire financial existence planned and taken care of. So for step one, and again, I have in the same section the little tabs. So I have the $1,000 here, I have the snowball here, which is how you pay off your debt, and that's really the two tabs that I really need for this. But to begin, what I did is put a budget together, and I put some paper here because I don't need you to see what the income and, you know, billing and all of that is in my house. So what I did here is go on Excel, and I made a chart from the first to the month all the way down to the 31st of the month. And then I went to my bank account and I looked at when the bills are being paid or when they are being debited from my account. For instance, if I have a direct payment, like a bill pay or things like this, so that I have an average. For instance, I know that my Adobe payment for my Photoshop and my Final Cut Pro usually comes down at or about the 23rd of the month. So I've separated it, if you can see that, into two sections, and it's really week by week, and then it's bi-weekly. And I've added, I can't show you on this, but you can probably see how it looks, you know, through a little bit. So then I have, actually this works not too bad because you can't see the numbers, but you can see what I'm doing. So then everything that I have to pay gets into a total. Then I added the income and then what the balance is. So I always know every 2 weeks what the budget is left over for, you know, things like the food, the gas, or whatever. And I try to put in everything with regards to those expenses that we have on an ongoing basis. So it's the phone, it's the Ipsy bag, it's the mortgage, it's the automatic payment for the cable TV, things like this. And the reason why I did this is because I needed to know on a monthly basis, and particularly for every pay period, which is every 2 weeks, how much money we have at the end of that pay period once those specific bills that need to pay within that pay period are being paid. And I've come to realize, and I know it's not earth-shattering for some of you who are budget savvy, but it is to me, who's struggled my entire life with budget, that of course on the bi-weekly where the mortgage is due, I happen to have the credit card that is due, and we are left with barely any money at the end of those 2 weeks. But for the first 2 weeks, even though we have a lot of bills that need to be paid on the first of the month, we had some extra money. So what I did is that even though my credit card is not due until the 23rd of the month, because the mortgage is due on the 15th, I've moved the payment of my credit card earlier. Now, it doesn't mean that I changed it online and asked my bank to bill me for the beginning of the month. It's just that I make sure I paid ahead of time so that I don't end up with very little money at the end of the month. And then some payments I actually split it in two. So for instance, if I have a big payment like I don't know, let's say, again, the credit card. I have a credit card that the payment is $300, and that has to be paid at the 24th of the month. Well, what I do is that I divide that by 2, and then I pay the first part at the beginning of the month, and then I pay the second part when it's actually due. I don't know if that makes sense. So that allows me to kind of like spread out the payments that I make throughout the month. And because I have them all marked as to their respective dates within 2 or 3 days, I always know when I do my monthly planning when to, actually it's more in the weekly, and it says bills to pay, I know exactly when it is that I have to pay those bills. Like for instance here, it says Macy's payment number 2. So what I did with my Macy's card is that I split the payment into 2 payments, and by the time I make payment number 2, it's actually the due date for the full payment, but I already made half of it. I'm hoping that makes sense. So that's for the budgeting and how I go through it. And I know that someone had asked me for that. Then when you go to my $1,000 here, emergency fund, that's part of the baby steps. What I do is that I look at our savings account and I try my very best to put a little bit of money here and there for an emergency fund, even if it's just $9. Like here, I'll put it in there, and I managed to go all the way up to $219 at the beginning of the month, and that's when we had the big snowstorm and we had issues with the temperature outside, and we ended up spending more money on the furnace and the oil for the furnace. So I ended up having to use that $219, hence the reason why I put back to square one right here. But that's okay. It's my fault. I should have budgeted on a monthly basis the amount of money we needed for the oil so that I wouldn't find myself having to tap into my $1,000 emergency fund. But I'll start over. And again, these I've done myself. It's going to allow me to track, and I was doing pretty good with that. And then I have the Dave Ramsey's pay off your debt thing, and it's just a picture that I put, together. And I'm just going to give you a quick glance as to how this works. So I went to a website, and I'll put the link below, that allows you to do the snowball. And the snowball basically is paying off your debt one bit at a time, and it snowballs into bigger payment, bigger payment, bigger payment to pay it off earlier. So it allows you, that particular website allows you to put in your debt. And for instance, this is my Macy's card, which I don't have any problem telling you how much I owe on it because it's under $300, so it's not a big deal. So it just puts together how much you owe and the interest rate, and then what's the regular payment, and then if you make any additional payment. So I can tell you right there that for January, I did not make any additional payment. I made the regular payment of $50, and that would be it. And then we here in February, I already made $25 payment. I'm probably going to make another $25. Actually, it's due today, tonight. So basically what happens with the snowball, and it's the same thing with all of our card. This is the car payment, this is the Best Buy thing, and it goes on and on. So how does the snowball work? Wait. Basically what you do is that you take your card that has the least amount of money that you owe, and then you write down what the minimum payment is. And then you pay that off. Of course, you try your very best to add money. So you're not trying to just pay the minimum payment. Like for instance, if your card is $25 a month, you try to double it, so you pay $50. So technically, if your payment is supposed to stop, let's say by July 2014, right? During that time, you pay your regular cards the normal way. You do either the minimum payment or you try to add a little bit more. But by July 2014, when I anticipate this card to be done, I can then move on to my next big card, and this one actually is my car. And I know that by July 2014, that's when I no longer have to pay the Macy's card. So then what happens is that not only starting July, not only am I making my regular payment for the car, but I'm adding whatever I was putting into the Macy's card to that payment. So that's going to allow me to shorten the length of the loan. And right now it's just $50 on this card, so the $50 is not going to make a big difference. So where it's going to make a difference is when you start moving on to the next cards. So now this one is getting paid off September 2014. So when I move on to my next card, in the meantime, I've paid my regular payments every month. You see, I'm tracking them and I'm putting a little X on it. So what's going to happen here is that in September 2014, if I was making my regular payments, this card would not get paid off but until January 2015. That's for the Best Buy. But as of September 2014, I no longer pay my car and I no longer pay my Macy's card. So whatever money I was putting in here, I am now as of July 2014 putting it into that card for the payment. So that would be the additional payment. And if you look at this, where I highlighted, it tells me where I'm actually going to close off this card. So this one, for instance, was not supposed to close off until January 2015, but because I'm putting more payments in it, I'm actually going to be able to finish it by October 2014. So that's a big 5 months difference. Starting October, guess what happens? I move on to the next card, and that would be the Kohl's card. And again, this card is not going to get paid off technically until July 2015 if I just make the regular payment. But as of September and October of 2014, I'm not putting in all of the payments I had in here into that card. And same thing with the credit card. So what the snowball does when you work with Dave Ramsey is that you just make your regular payments, but instead of trying to do the other method where you try to pay your bigger card with the biggest interest rate first, which is killing you financially, you just pay the smallest ones, and then you take all of that money and snowball it into the next card. And then once that's paid off, you snowball the whole amount into the next card, and it basically becomes bigger, 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 and bigger payment, and it makes no difference in your budget, because this is exactly what you were paying to begin with. The only difference is that once you're done with a card, instead of using that money for something else, you reinvest it into the next card. So that's the Dave Ramsey thing. I hope I'm explaining this in a way that makes sense. If you want more explanation on this, just let me know, leave a comment below, and I guess I'll do a whole video on this and explain it to you. Here's the health section with the Martha Stewart's tab. I'm gonna put my hand right here because I just realized I left my account number for my health insurance on this, so I don't want you to see that. But basically, I've found out this year that I had some issues with being not pre-diabetic, but borderline pre-diabetic. So, and I had some high cholesterol. So I've put some information here for my own references as to what it is that I need to take with regards to food and supplements and what I need to stop eating and stuff. And then right here is the Dr. Whale, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, pyramid of anti-inflammatory food. And then right here I have a tab that says MDs, and that's just basically the information that I printed off for all of the doctors that I see. And again, I have more of that Martha Stewart paper right here. Here's my password section, which obviously I'm going to skip because you don't need to know what my passwords are. So I'm just going to skip that, and this is where I keep all of my account numbers, my passwords, because I have a lot of websites that require for me to log in. And this is the back cover that stops the rings from damaging the paper or whatever I have. I have one of those little pocket thing where I keep some important documents. I have another one of those top loading sheet in which I keep some stickers that I don't use all the time, but I absolutely adore them. There's some little owls from the Recollection company. There's the, everybody's got those little flowers in rainbow colors. There's the little glue things, dots. I made a big mistake using those. I wanted to mark my pay periods for both my husband and I, and because these are 3D, they actually, if you put them all within the same space, they create a big, thick, portion or section of your papers, and then you end up having this bump on your papers. So I'm using them still, but really, really sporadically, because I just love the way they look. They have like little glitter in them or shimmer, pretty. And then the usual Martha Stewart dewdrop that everybody has, which you have not seen in my planner yet because I haven't been using them, but they don't take much room, and that's okay. So I don't have to remove them or anything, because you never know, I actually use them. Next is after the sticker, I have another one of those top loading sheet, and it's just a religious image only because, you know, you gotta keep that in your life. And this is a 1950s print actually that I really, really like. And I have some stamps here. I have the perfume I'm using right now, which is Modern Use by Estee Lauder. I have another one of those little four thing that has those, you've seen those, everybody's got those. It's the big stickies from, I think it's Avery that does that, and they see-through. I kind of like these. There's a little origami thing that my son did, so I put it in there. And on this side I have another one of those four pockets, which I kind of mask because these are all my phone numbers, important phone numbers. And the reason why I put them here is because sometimes my phone runs out of battery. If I lose my phone and I need to make an important phone call, guess what? They in here, school, doctors, my boss, my employees, you know, whatever. It's all in there. Important numbers, work numbers, more important numbers, and then I have all the school related numbers at the bottom. And in the back, in the section that holds the notepad, I have this really cute Ed Hardy, if you can see that, is it gorgeous, koi fish notepad that I put in there. Only because sometimes I need a piece of paper to write something on, not necessarily to keep in this binder, and I don't want to use the Martha Stewart paper that's in there. So that's it. This is my planner, and again, you can see it's pretty thick, pretty heavy with my 2 pens here, but I absolutely love it. It has everything I need in it and nothing more. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the tour of my planner and the way I set it up. Again, just a quick reminder, not everything in there is completed, like the meal planning and things like this, but I like to have them already set up for when I finally get the time to get around to doing it. I think this is the best setup I've had so far. I'm probably not going to change it. It is pretty stuff. It is pretty heavy, but I carry a lot of stuff with me anyway. To go to work, I need like 2 bags. I have a work bag, my personal bag, and I have my lunch bag. So I'm used to carrying a ton of stuff. I don't necessarily take it with me when I go shopping. It all depends of where I'm going. There's been some occasions where I would actually purchase a purse based on its ability to contain this planner. And yes, it was easier when my planner was a personal size. It was much lighter, but I really need the space. I need to be able to write down things. I write big to begin with, but I also want to be able to have a clear space. If it starts to be constricted and kind of like, you know, stuffed, and I don't feel like I have enough space, my handwriting changes, things get cluttered, I don't have enough space in between lines, and I tend to forget things. So this is much clearer and easier for me to use, and it's just my personal preference. There's a lot of folks who like personal. I've seen folks using just the mini or what, a pocket, whatever the size they call it. And then there's some folks who use the bigger one, which I think is called the portfolio format. I'm not sure, but anyway, this was my setup. I hope you enjoyed the tour. I hope you've got a few ideas that you may want to use on your own. And again, personal preferences. Your planner is your life. It is the way you want to design it. You don't have to copy what other folks are doing. You don't have to start to change your routines and the way you are just because there's a planner setup that looks attractive to you. If you're not already doing those things, you're not going to put them in a planner and start doing them unless you really want to change certain aspects of your life. Everything that's in here, aside from the meal planning and the freezer cooking, is something that I'm doing already. So I'm not trying to reinvent myself. I'm just planning myself and I'm managing myself. Basically, that's what it comes down to. So yeah, thank you for watching. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.